Progress Report 14, June 15. Our escape hit the papers yesterday, and the tabloids had a field day. On the second page of the daily press, there was an old picture of me and a sketch of a white mouse. The headline read, "Moron, Genius and Mouse Go Berserk." Niemer and Strauss are reported as saying I had been under tremendous strain and that I would undoubtedly return soon. They offered a $500 reward for Algernon, not realizing we were together. When I turned to the later story on the 5th page, I was stunned to find a picture of my mother and sister. Some reporter had obviously done his legwork. Sister unaware of moron genius whereabouts. Special to the daily press. Brooklyn, New York, June 14. Miss Norma Gordon, who lives with her mother, Rose Gordon, at 4136 Marks Street, Brooklyn, New York, denied any knowledge of her brother's whereabouts. Miss Gordon said, "We haven't seen him or heard from him in more than 17 years. Miss Gordon says she believed her brother dead until last March, when the head of the psychology department at Beekman University approached her for permission to use Charlie in an experiment. My mother told me he had been sent to the Warren place, Warren State Home and Training School in Warren, Long Island," said Miss Gordon, "and that he died there a few years later. I had no idea then that he was still alive." Miss Gordon requests that anyone who has any news about her brother's whereabouts communicate with the family at their home address. The father, Matthew Gordon, who is not living with his wife and daughter, now operates a barber shop in the Bronx. I stared at the news story for a while, and then I turned back and looked at the picture again. How can I describe them? I can't say I remember Rose's face, although the recent photograph is a clear one. I still see it through the gauze of childhood. I knew her, and I didn't know her. Had we passed on the street, I would not have recognized her, but now, knowing she is my mother, I can make out the faint details. Yes. Thin, drawn into exaggerated lines, sharp nose and chin, and I can almost hear her chatter and bird screech. Hair done up in a bun, severely, piercing me with her dark eyes. I want her to take me into her arms and tell me I am a good boy. And at the same time I want to turn away to avoid a slap. Her picture makes me tremble. And Norma, thin-faced too, features not so sharp, pretty, but very much like my mother. Her hair worn down to her shoulders softens her. The two of them are sitting on the living room couch. It was Rose's face that brought back the frightening memories. She was two people to me. and I never had any way of knowing which she would be. Perhaps she would reveal it to others by a gesture of hand, a raised eyebrow, a frown. My sister knew the storm warnings, and she would always be out of range whenever my mother's temper flared. But it always caught me unawares. I would come to her for comforting, and her anger would break over me. And other times there would be tenderness and holding close, like a warm bath, and hands stroking my hair and brow, and the words carved above the cathedral of my childhood. He's like all the other children. He's a good boy. I see back through the dissolving photograph, myself and father leaning over a bassinet. He's holding me by the hand and saying, "There she is. You mustn't touch her because she's very little. But when she gets bigger, you'll have a sister to play with." I see my mother in the huge bed nearby, bleached and pasty, arms limp on the orchid-figured comforter, raising her head anxiously. "Watch him, Matt." That was before she had changed towards me, and now I realize it was because she had no way of knowing yet if Norma would be like me or not. It was later on, when she was sure her prayers had been answered, and Norma showed all signs of normal intelligence, that my mother's voice began to sound different. Not only her voice, but her touch, her look, her very presence, all changed. It was as if her magnetic poles had reversed, and where they had once attracted, now repelled. I see now that when Norma flowered in our garden I became a weed, allowed to exist only where I would not be seen, in corners and dark places. Seeing her face in the newspaper, I suddenly hated her. It would have been better if she had ignored the doctors and teachers and others who were so in a hurry to convince her that I was a moron, turning her away from me so that she gave me less love when I needed more. What good would it do to see her now? What could she tell me about myself? And yet, I'm curious. How would she react? To see her and trace back to learn what I was, or to forget her? Is the past worth knowing? Why is it so important for me to say to her, "Mom, look at me. I'm not retarded anymore. I'm normal. Better than normal. I'm a genius." Even as I try to get her out of my mind, the memories seep back from the past to contaminate the here and now. Another memory when I was much older. A quarrel, Charlie lying in bed, with the covers pulled up around him, the room dark except for the thin line of yellow light from the door ajar that penetrates the darkness to join both worlds. And he hears things, not understanding but feeling, because the rasp of their voices is linked to their talk of him. More and more, each day, He comes to associate that tone with a frown when they speak of him. He has been almost asleep when through the bar of light the soft voices were raised to the pitch of argument. His mother's voice sharp with the threat of one used to having her way through hysteria. He's got to be sent away. I don't want him in the house any more with her. Call Dr. Portman and tell him we want to send Charlie to the Warren State Home. My father's voice is firm, steadying. But you know Charlie wouldn't harm her. It can't make any difference to her at this age. How do we know? Maybe it has a bad effect on a child to grow up with someone like him in the house. Dr. Portman said, Portman said, Portman said, I don't care what he said. Think of what it will be like for her to have a brother like that. I was wrong all these years, trying to believe he would grow up like other children. I admit it now. Better for him to be put away. Now that you've got her, you've decided you don't want him anymore? Do you think this is easy? Why are you making it harder for me? All these years, everyone telling me he should be put away. Well, they were right. Put him away. Maybe at the home with his own kind, he'll have something. I don't know what's right or wrong anymore. All I know is I'm not going to sacrifice my daughter for him now. And though Charlie has not understood what passed between them, he is afraid and sinks beneath the covers, eyes open, trying to pierce the darkness that surrounds him. As I see him now, he is not really afraid, just withdrawing as a bird or squirrel backs off from the brusque movements of the feeder. Involuntary, instinctive. The light through that door ajar comes to me again in luminous vision. Seeing Charlie huddled beneath the covers, I wish I could give him comfort, explain to him that he has done nothing wrong, that it is beyond him to change his mother's attitude back to what it was before his sister came. There on the bed, Charlie did not understand what they were saying, but now it hurts. If I could reach out into the past of my memories, I would make her see how much she was hurting me. This is no time to go to her, not until I have had time to work it out for myself. Fortunately, as a precaution, I withdrew my savings from the bank as soon as I arrived in New York. $886 won't last long, but it will give me time to get my bearings. I have checked in to the Camden Hotel on 41st Street, a block from Times Square, New York. All the things I've read about it, Gotham, the melting pot, Baghdad on the Hudson, city of light and color. Incredible that I've lived and worked all my life just a few stops away on the subway and been to Times Square only once with Alice. It's hard to keep from calling her. I've started and stopped myself several times. I've got to keep away from her. So many confusing thoughts to get down. I tell myself that as long as I keep taping my progress reports, nothing will be lost. The record will be complete. Let them be in the dark for a while. I was in the dark for more than 30 years. But I am tired now. Didn't get to sleep on the plane yesterday, and I can't keep my eyes open. I will pick up at this point tomorrow. June 16. Called Alice, but hung up before she answered. Today I found a furnished apartment. $95 a month is more than I planned to spend, but it's on 43rd and 10th Avenue, and I can get to the library in 10 minutes to keep up with my reading and study. The apartment is on the 4th floor, 4 rooms, and there's a rented piano in it. The landlady says that one of these days the rental service will pull it out, but maybe by that time I can learn to play it. Algernon is a pleasant companion. At mealtimes he takes his place at the small gate-leg table. He likes pretzels, and today he took a sip of beer while he watched the ball game on TV. I think he rooted for the Yankees. I'm going to move most of the furniture out of the second bedroom and use the room for Algernon. I plan to build him a 3-dimensional maze out of scrap plastic that I can pick up cheaply downtown. There are some complex maze variations I'd like him to learn to be sure he keeps in shape. But I'm going to see if I can find some motivation to other than food. There must be other rewards that will induce him to solve problems. Solitude gives me a chance to read and think, and now that the memories are coming through again, to rediscover my past, to find out who and what I really am. If anything should go wrong, I will have at least that.